Silence. It unnerves people more than threats, more than shouts, more than anger. When you refuse to fill the air, the other person rushes to do it for you. And in that rush, they reveal more than they intended, handing you their secrets while you've said nothing at all. Silence is not absence. It is power sharpened like a hidden blade. To understand this law, you must first reject the lie that words alone shape authority. Words are currency, yes, but currency inflates. The more you spend, the less each coin is worth. Silence, by contrast, is gold, scarce, heavy, and undeniable. Those who speak less make every phrase carry more weight. Their pauses echo louder than another's speeches. Imagine a courtroom. The crowd murmurs, waiting for the accused to defend himself. His enemies throw words like daggers, sharp accusations, rehearsed speeches, venom disguised as reason. All eyes turn to him, expecting a desperate reply. He breathes in. He does not speak. He lets the silence stretch across the chamber. Every heartbeat grows louder. The accusers begin to sweat. They speak again, this time faster, weaker, as if trying to fill a void. But their words stumble, unravel, contradict. By the time he finally answers, with one measured sentence, their entire attack collapses under its own weight. Silence was the weapon. Silence was the verdict. This is the ancient secret of restraint. Your quiet presence forces others into discomfort, because humans fear a void. When you do not rush to fill it, they assume you know more than you show. They project their own insecurity onto your silence. To them, you become mysterious, unreadable, powerful. They will second-guess their every word, while you remain steady. Think of the negotiation table. Two sides argue over numbers. One party sits calm, saying little, answering only when necessary. The other, uncomfortable with the silence, talks themselves into lowering the price. Without raising a voice, power was won. Or consider the leader who pauses before answering a difficult question. Those few seconds turn every listener into a captive, waiting for the words that must surely matter. Machiavelli himself warned, "A wise man does it once what the fool does at last." The fool cannot hold his tongue. The fool fills every gap, explains too much, pleads, persuades, protests. But the wise man knows the power of the unsaid. He acts in silence. He lets others reveal while he observes. And yet, wisdom demands balance. Seneca, the Stoic, once said, "Speech is the index of the mind." Silence is potent, but silence without integrity can rot into suspicion. Your pauses must be purposeful, not empty. Your quiet must signal strength, not cowardice. How then can you practice this law? Begin with a simple exercise. In your next conversation, pause for 3 full seconds before answering any question. Let the silence hang. Watch how the other person shifts, adjusts, or even fills the space with more words. Train yourself to become comfortable in that tension. Each pause strengthens your control, while weakening the grip of others' urgency. Drop this affirmation: "My silence holds more weight than their noise." The silence you wield is not only external, it is internal. You must learn to silence your own impulse to rush, defend, or overshare. Mastering your words means mastering your reactions. And when you no longer react from insecurity, you cannot be baited. You cannot be trapped. But silence is only the first shadowed law. Once you can withhold your words, the next question emerges. What mask will you wear when you finally speak? Because in the theater of power, appearances are not ornaments. They are armor. And the mask of virtue is sharper than any sword. Power never enters a room naked. It arrives clothed in robes of virtue, smiling with generosity, speaking in the tongue of morality. Yet behind that carefully polished surface, calculations unfold. The mask conceals the blade. And those who understand this law rise, while others stumble. Appearances govern perception more than reality ever will. Humans judge within seconds, long before truth can speak. A good image buys trust, shields you from suspicion, and blinds rivals who cannot imagine darkness behind a saintly face. The genius learns that public morality is camouflage, while private intent remains strategy. Picture a politician walking through a crowded square. Children reach out to shake his hand. Mothers bless him for his charity. Merchants bow with gratitude for his donations. Every gesture seems noble, every smile genuine. Yet behind closed doors, the same man redraws alliances with ruthless precision. Rivals are bought, others crushed silently, always under the halo of his public virtue. No one suspects the iron hand inside the velvet glove. The mask shields him, even as he consolidates control. This is not merely theater, it is survival. Those who appear dangerous are resisted. Those who appear harmless move freely. History is filled with conquerors who cloak themselves in virtue while plotting merciless victories. They understood that society rarely forgives open ruthlessness, but willingly follows a figure cloaked in goodness. By seeming to serve higher ideals, you purchase freedom to maneuver unseen. Think of the ambitious executive who praises teamwork in every speech, yet uses that language to disguise personal consolidation of authority. Or the spiritual leader who preaches humility while carefully weaving networks of influence under the cover of sacred duty. The mask grants passage where bare ambition will be blocked. Machiavelli himself observed, "It is not necessary to have all the virtues, but to appear to have them. To appear is to rule. To appear is to survive." Yet wisdom requires balance, for appearance without discipline corrupts the soul. The Stoic Epictetus reminded his students, "First say to yourself what you would be, then do what you must do." The mask must not become pure deception. It must be shield and mirror together, protecting you while reminding you who you must truly become. How can you practice this without falling into hypocrisy? Begin with something simple. Today, rehearse one small act of visible virtue. Help, praise, or give. Not to deceive, but to study how easily perception shifts. Notice how quickly one action reshapes how others interpret your character. Learn the lesson. Appearances carry weight far beyond truth. Drop this affirmation. My image is my shield. My intent is my strategy. The mask of virtue is not weakness. It is discipline. It allows you to choose when to reveal and when to conceal. It protects you from reckless exposure and gives your actions cover to grow quietly, like roots spreading unseen beneath the earth. The mask does not replace substance. It ensures your substance can mature without sabotage. But a mask alone is not enough. Once you master appearance, you must master timing. For even the perfect disguise can collapse if unveiled too soon. And so the next law reveals itself. Power belongs not only to those who act, but to those who strike at the exact moment others least expect. Power does not reward the strongest hand. Power rewards a hand that strikes at the moment when no one is ready. You can prepare, you can plan, you can even hold overwhelming strength. But if your timing falters, everything collapses. Hesitation wastes openings that never return. Acting too soon exposes you before your foundation is strong enough to hold. Mastery of timing is mastery of fate itself. Timing is the hidden rhythm of power. It is not about speed. It is about precision. Those who cannot wait lose what they could have won. Those who wait too long watch the moment die in their hands. The genius learns to sense the exact second when hesitation becomes fatal and when patience ripens into victory. Imagine an ambitious general at war. His soldiers are restless, hungry for action, yet he holds them back. For days he watches the enemy grow careless, their guard weakening, their fires burning low in the cold night. Scouts return with whispers. The enemy is fatigued, their morale broken. The general waits still longer, until the darkness of midnight cloaks every movement. Then, like a blade descending, he unleashes his army. The enemy collapses before they even know what struck them. His victory was not born of brute force, but of patience sharpened into perfect timing. This is the law of the scythe. Time cuts for you if you know when to swing. Too early and you slash empty air. Too late and the harvest rots. But at the exact second, the field yields everything with almost no resistance. Power works the same way. Consider the ambitious merchant who does not launch his invention when first conceived. He studies, refines, waits for rivals to overspend and fail. When the market is tired but desperate for a solution, he unveils his creation. Success seems sudden, but it was patience dressed as genius. Or the statesman who keeps silent in debate, listening to every speaker, waiting as arguments clash and collapse. Only when the chamber is exhausted does he stand, and in a few words, He secures unanimous support. Machiavelli understood this when he wrote, "Fortune is a woman, and it is necessary, if you wish to master her, to conquer her by force. Fortune favors boldness, but boldness without timing is chaos." The Stoic Marcus Aurelius offered the counterpoint. Time is a river, a violent current of events, glimpsed once and carried away. His words remind you that time flows whether you act or not. Your task is not to stop it, but to sense its current and step in at the right moment. How then can you practice this law? Begin small. Today, choose one situation, a conversation, a negotiation, even a casual decision. Do not rush. Observe. Notice how waiting an extra beat shifts the balance. Notice how silence or patience gives you information you would have missed. Timing is a discipline of attention, and you sharpen it by practice, not theory. Dropped as affirmation. I move when the moment is ripe, not before, not after. Mastering timing is not passivity. It is not the coward's delay. It is the hunter's patience, the musician's rhythm, the strategist's foresight. It demands the courage to hold back when your blood screams a leap, and it demands the strength to act instantly when the opening finally arrives. But timing alone does not guarantee victory. Even when you strike at the right moment, your strike must land where the rival is weakest. And so the next law unfolds. Power lies not in your strength, but in finding and exploiting the cracks in theirs. Every fortress has a crack. Every throne has a loose stone. Every rival you face, no matter how powerful they appear, carries a hidden fracture within them. Your task is not brute force. It is perception. You must find the weakness before they find yours. Power is never absolute. It always dissolves somewhere. Weakness hides well. It wears a mask of confidence, the armor of pride, the shield of loyalty. Yet arrogance blinds judgment, fatigue dulls instinct, and misplaced devotion bends reason. If you watch closely, you will see where strength unravels. Press the flaw at the right time, and the entire structure collapses, not with thunder, but with a whisper. Picture a royal court where whispers echo louder than decrees. A king sits on his throne, stern and commanding, yet fragile beneath the weight of ego. He craves one thing above all, praise. His courtiers compete to flatter him, but one man is sharper than the rest. He sees a king's hunger for approval, and he feeds it carefully. An artful word, a delicate compliment, never too much, never too little. Slowly, without the king noticing, this courtier begins to steer decisions, policy, even wars. The king believes he rules, but his strings are already in another's hands. Weakness exploited is power transferred. This pattern repeats across history. A ruler loses control because a trusted advisor whispers into the ear of his vanity. A general falls not from battle, but from exhaustion that an enemy patiently waits to exploit. Power does not crumble because it was weak. It crumbles because someone saw where the weakness lived. Think of the colleague who hides insecurity with constant boasting. Push gently, and their facade cracks in public. Or the rival who trusts one ally too deeply, blind to betrayal. Strike that bond, and the rival collapses without you ever touching them. Machiavelli himself wrote, "The first method for estimating the intelligence of a ruler is to look at the men he has around him. This wisdom cuts both ways. The company a person keeps reveals the cracks in their armor. Yet the Stoic Epictetus warned, it is not things themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them. The danger lies not in the weakness itself, but in how it is perceived and acted upon. Discipline demands you observe weakness without cruelty and guard your own cracks with vigilance. How then can you practice this law? Begin with awareness. In your next interaction, notice one subtle insecurity in another person, perhaps nervous laughter, over-explaining, or quick defensiveness. Do not exploit it. Simply observe. Training perception sharpens your instinct, while restraint builds your integrity. Power without control is merely destruction. Drop this affirmation. I see the cracks others miss, yet I guard my own with discipline. The genius of this law is that strength does not need to crush. It needs only to notice, to see the fracture others deny, to apply just enough pressure where the structure is weakest. Yet this principle is not only about others. It is about you If you do not examine your own flaws, someone else will. If you do not guard your cracks, another will strike them. But finding the weakness is not the end of the law. The next step is choice. Will you exploit or will you protect? For Machiavelli warns of ruthlessness, but wisdom warns of excess. And sometimes the most dangerous act is mercy left unfinished, which leads to the next law: destroy or be crushed. Mercy feels noble, but in the arena of power is often fatal. You think you are sparing someone, but in truth, you are planting the seed of your own undoing. Half measures in conflict rarely produce peace. They breed resentment, waiting, and revenge. To hesitate is to hand your rival the weapon they will use against you tomorrow. Survival demands something colder: finality. History is full of those who chose mercy over closure and paid the price. Leaving an enemy half defeated is like leaving a fire smoldering. It may look extinguished, but the embers will consume you later. The choice is brutal, but simple: destroy the threat completely or be crushed by its return. Picture the marble halls of a kingdom at dusk. A victorious dynasty sits secure after years of war. Their rivals, once fierce, kneel before them, stripped of armies and banners. The council urges caution: end them now, or they will rise again. But the king, guided by pity, spares their lives. He banishes them with lands far away, believing mercy will buy loyalty. Years pass. That spared family whispers in the shadows, gathering allies among the discontented. Their children grow up remembering humiliation, sharpening their hatred like a blade. When famine strikes the dynasty, rebellion ignites. The very ones once forgiven return at the head of the army that burns the palace gates. Mercy has transformed into poison. Compassion became the rope of their own strangling. The lesson is brutal but clear. A rival you leave standing is not neutralized. They are simply waiting for the moment when your guard drops. And that moment always comes. Think of Julius Caesar. He pardoned his enemies after civil war, choosing clemency as a gesture of strength. Years later, those same men conspired to plunge knives into his chest. His mercy became his downfall. Or recall business magnates who leave a competitor weakened but alive, only to watch that rival return leaner, smarter, and more ruthless than before. Partial victories create stronger enemies, not weaker ones. Machiavelli warned of this centuries ago. Men should be either treated generously or destroyed, because they take revenge for slight injuries. He understood that sparing a rival halfway is neither kindness nor strength. It is indecision disguised as virtue. But here the Stoics remind us of balance. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike your enemy." You are not called to cruelty, but to closure. Do not leave what endangers your life, your purpose, or your integrity half-finished. So, how do you practice this in your own life without cruelty? You apply it inwardly and strategically. Look at one project, one conflict, or one habit you have left dangling. Ask yourself, am I finishing this fully, or leaving it half alive to haunt me later? This week, commit to ending one loose thread. Finish the task. Close the chapter. Resolve the matter. Drop this affirmation: I leave no loose ends. Because in the battlefield of existence, half measures are invitations for chaos to return. To conquer is not merely to strike. It is to ensure there is nothing left to strike back. And yet, this truth carries a shadow. Once you destroy, you too carry the burden of what cannot be undone. That leads us to the next law of power, the hidden cost of every victory, and how triumph itself can become a trap. When you must forgive, do it silently, not for applause, not for recognition, but for release. When you must punish, do it cleanly, not in rage, but in resolve. A single action that restores order is more merciful than endless chaos. Look at your life now. What decision have you delayed out of fear? What truth have you swallowed to keep peace with others while waging war within? Write it down, name it, and today act without apology, without hesitation, because every postponed decision grows heavier with time. Ruthless calm is the blade that cuts through doubt. It is the quiet step that ends a noise. You do not owe explanations to those who misunderstand your duty. The cold are not cruel. They are clear, and clarity is kindness in a world drowning in confusion. Remember, emotion is a storm. Power is the mountain. Let the storm rage. You remain unmoved. When you master this, your life transforms. Chaos no longer sways you. Criticism no longer shakes you. You become deliberate, precise, untouchable. Acting with ruthless calm is not about domination. It's about discipline. You are no longer dragged by feelings or pressured by noise. You move with reason, and reason never trembles. And when you move, the world adjusts. Because true coldness doesn't shout. It acts, once with unshakable calm. And the echo lasts longer than words ever could.